Sydney, Australia. Martina was sexually abused for the first time at age 8 by a priest in the confession booth of her Catholic elementary school. Almost daily violations followed in her working-class Sydney suburb, culminating in a rape at age 9 that she later recalled as more painful than childbirth. A nun who saw Martina when she was leaving the confessional with blood running down her leg told her she was disgusting. The traumatized girl sought out a policeman for help. He knelt down to my level, he looked right at me and he said to me, "You are a naughty, naughty little girl," she said. "I can see him now, the policeman. I wanted him to save me." Her real name isn't Martina, but her story is real. She was one of 6,875 men and women who described their experiences to an Australian commission investigating child sexual abuse, which last week published one of the more thoughtful, thorough, and honest analyses of a problem that has afflicted churches, schools, military academies, sports clubs, orphanages and other institutions entrusted with the care of children around the world. Martina's story was posted online by the Commission along with the stories of almost 4,000 other sexual assault victims. Among the Commission's 409 proposed solutions, one deserves special attention: Catholic priests should be legally compelled to report to law enforcement agencies admissions or allegations of abuse made in confession. As most Catholics know instinctively, the confessional holds a central symbolic and practical function in the Church's operation. It is a place where adults and children often unburden themselves of petty insecurities and failings and sometimes reveal incredibly intimate information about themselves. Priests are designated by the Church to exercise God's right to absolve believers of their confessed sins. Theologians and religious leaders employ mystical language to convey a sense of otherworldly importance to such church rituals. The act of a penitent confessing sins to a priest in the sacrament of reconciliation forms a sacred trust, a British religious legal academic, Helen Costigain, wrote in an American Jesuit publication in 2013. Confessions are an inviolate sacramental seal, according to the 1983 Catholic Code of Canon Law, which says it is absolutely forbidden, nefas in Latin, to disclose confessional secrets. The penalty is excommunication. Yet confessions can also enable abuse. There is evidence that some pedophile priests confess to colleagues to assuage their guilt, knowing forgiveness is assured. Under the proposals from Australia's 6-member commission, which toiled for 5 years, church officials would be prosecuted for a failure to protect. If priests learned of sexual abuse through a confession, they would risk criminal charges if the police weren't notified. To buttress the system, children's confessions would be conducted in the open with a chaperone. The plan suggests limiting the legal exceptionalism enjoyed by the Church in many countries, even ones like the United States that take pride in separating church and state. In Australia, mandatory reporting of child sex abuse already applies to police officers, teachers, nurses and child care workers. In some places, dentists are covered. Priests aren't. In the United States, most states with mandatory reporting laws don't apply them to the confession booth. The innate power of the confession process is one of the reasons the Catholic Church has objected to the Commission's proposals. If priests are required to behave like regular professionals by reporting criminal violence against children, their spiritual aura could fade. After all, God is not meant to be subject to human laws. In response to the Commission's 17-volume report, the Archbishop of Melbourne, Dennis Hart, declared he would choose prison over than revealing a confession. "As part of my identity as a priest, I have to observe the seal of the confession," he said. It is a sacred trust. The Vatican said the report deserved to be studied in depth. But critics of the Vatican say the Catholic bureaucracy lacks the will, or interest, to make painful cultural changes. Catholics aren't the only culprits or the only victims. Predators inhabit other branches of Christianity, and Jewish and Muslim communities, among others. But more than 60% of the assaults in religious settings investigated by the Australian Commission occurred in Catholic institutions, suggesting the Church deserves special attention. The United States branch of the Church has been caught up in sex abuse scandals for decades, a painful history that many Americans were reminded of this week by the death of Cardinal Bernard Law from Boston. There have been similar assaults among Catholics in Austria, Belgium, Germany, Ireland, Italy, the Netherlands, and Switzerland. The first objective of any legal system has to be to protect the vulnerable and innocent. History shows that individuals are more likely to ignore unethical behavior if the victims are weak and the institution oppressing them is strong. By failing to stop abuse within its walls around the world, the Catholic Church surrendered its moral authority to claim exemption from democratic society's laws. The crimes committed at Martina's school in that confession booth, a pathetic abuse of the seat of priestly power over the defenseless, were far worse than any breach of trust that would come from a priest reporting a criminal confessor. That trust has long been betrayed by the men responsible for upholding it.